God on this. Okie doke. Well, welcome to session number 4 of Late Egyptian, the language of Ramses. And I thought before we kick it off for today, quick recap. What have we covered so far? We've already covered quite a bit of ground in the first 3 sessions. We covered the history of the Egyptian language, in other words, Egyptian 1 versus Egyptian 2. Egyptian 1 being Old Middle and Neo-Middle Egyptian versus where we are, Egyptian 2, Late Egyptian, Demotic, and Coptic. We also talked about the concurrent use of Neo-Middle Egyptian and Late Egyptian, depending on what register you're in. So Neo-Middle Egyptian or Neoclassical Egyptian for religious or for official inscriptions, anything that's basically higher status, higher prestige, and Late Egyptian and its successors for lower register things, which includes literature, which includes, for example, stories or poems, but also administrative texts or personal letters, for example. And of course, there are mixtures in between. That's interesting. So if you have Late Egyptian, it's not just one monolithic language. You have very literary variants, which use some classical verb forms, like, for example, in the story of Horus and Seth, you see that a lot, where they still use pieces of classical Middle Egyptian to make it look a bit more formal, I suppose. And there's also some variation over time, like 19th dynasty is not necessarily like 20th or 21st. So there is a bit of evolution going on as well. We covered the writing system. We covered uniliterals, multiliterals, phonetic complements, and determinatives. I've put an example here. For example, kem, multiliteral, plus m. So kem plus m is still kem, plus t, plus the determinative for city or for anything that's location related. And that gives you Kemet or Kumet, Egypt, Keme, and Coptic. And we had questions with what last time? Simple one, what is this? Ich pai, or tai, or nai, and then the answer again with pai, tai, nai, as a first example of a very simple sentence. And oops, my sharing is paused. Why is my sharing paused? Not. Then let me show you what I've prepared for today. Basically, we had some reading exercises, 4 sentences. I'd love to go over those. Second, I think time that we get started on the definite article. And we can then also use it for where type questions for the first adverbial sentences. And this will depend on how much time we have. But I think if we go through the exercises quickly enough, we should have plenty of time to get at least started on this topic. So then, without much further ado, let's go to the homework sentences. And here I just ask if, I don't know, for each sentence, somebody could take it and just tell me what you think the transcription is, according to Lesko or Ramses Online, or just reading it directly, and the translation as well. And I'll go out of full screen.
Can I try?
Yeah, by all means.
Can I try doing it? Well, I'm going to try and pronounce it. Iro. Then I think it's a picture of beer.
That's right. Not necessarily beer, could be something else too.
Okay, it could be wine, I suppose. And that's a plural. I didn't know what that little sort of tadpole thing was above the plural sign. Anyway, come back to that. And then the next word is EU.
Right, correct.
And again, it's plural. And again, and I'm afraid I didn't get around to translating it.
Okay, well, this was already good. Let me take what you had. You had Irep, I think. You had, well, the way it's spelled, it's Cheket, but actually there's a little trick to it. Do you remember this one has a silent, no, a silent has an unwritten N in the middle, which we just know from Coptic. Then you had Iuf, which is correct. And finally, the line broke up when you were on the last one. What did you have for the last one?
Youth. It was something in the plural, and I didn't know what the I through the letterbox was.
Ah, okay. The letterbox here. You mean this one here on top?
No, the one, going that one.
That one. This one's normally found with like bread or cakes. It's some kind of shape of a bread loaf. It's a determinative. What do you make out of these three?
I thought that the sorry, it's no, hang on. That is the first one. Just remind me what the square thing is. Not the square thing,
Let me see how I had it in my table. No, I had it like this. It's shy. It's a sh.
okay.
Mhm.
Sh, shy.
You are correct. That is correct. So sh, ein, and y. Depending on which dictionary you look in, you may find a T there, which is not spelled out here. And that is basically some type of cake, something baked. What exactly what it looks like, I don't know. Did you find Eof in the dictionary by any chance?
No, because I've only just found the dictionary, but I'd love you to show me again how I would find it, because I looked at the first page and I couldn't even work out, was it in A for A, B, C, D? I didn't even know how to do it.
That's perfectly fine. Let's do that together. That's what the exercises are for. So let's say, let me open I'll show you guys two ways. One would be using the PDF dictionary, if I can find it. Come on, I had this open earlier today. Here it is. Okay, doke. Let's go back to the example. So IREP we had in class, there was wine. So a little jar, here's actually a wine jar, but a beer jar would I think look the same way. The next word is beer, Henket. I mean, how would you find it? You would look for H, and you need to know your Egyptian alphabet for that. So
where do I find the Egyptian alphabet?
Basically in the slides I sent out, the sequence is Aleph, I or J, Y, Ein. So first all the semi-consonants, the things that can also be vowel markers, they come at the beginning. Then come like the labial sounds like P, B, P, F. Then you have M and R. Then come all the H's, all four of them. Then come the sibilants, the S and sh sounds. And then finally the K sounds, and at the very end, the dentals. So the sequence is very different from our alphabet, but after a while you get used to it. So that's something
Thank you. Yeah, I hadn't realized that was an alphabet.
That's basically the way it works. It's just very different from ours. And then it just goes by consonants. So if you wanted to find, for example, the word Renket, let's find it. So I said you start with all the like semi-consonants and glides and whatnot. Then come it's obviously at the end. It's not really great. I mean, the PDF is not that easy to use, but basically if you look at the very end, you have the starting sounds of the words. So here's basically the B, next should be the P, next should be the F, and then come the nasals, M, N, etc. So I'm just going to scroll down until I get to the H section. Only problem here, I'm not sure. Oh yeah, this is probably H dot. It is. And so then I just need to get to H. Well, let's see what it's under, whether it's under HK or under HNK. This one could be tricky because the N is not written. It is actually, let's see, it's under HNK. That's annoying because if you had just looked for HQ, let me see if it would show up there. Probably not. HQ. No. That one you just have to know that it has that hidden N inside. Luckily, there are not too many words that have that. The more common problem in late Egyptian is that you may have more letters in there than you expected. But yeah, basically that's how you would do it. Let's use another word that's a little bit more straightforward. Better demonstration. Let's say, for example, the iuf, which means meat. So first letter is a J. So all the way back to the semi-consonants at the beginning. There you want to find U. And then, so we're already on U, like for example, an island or the word for dog and whatnot. A bit further, UF, here we go. And there it is. Let me move the video. Here it is already, EU for flesh or meat. The word is the same in Egyptian. And that's basically what it is. How can you
Another question. You explained last week that the dictionary does it right to left, but your exercises were left to right, weren't they?
Yes, they were. And just for one reason, it's a great point. How do you know which one it is? Always look at the direction of the animals, where they're facing. Like in this case, the viper is facing left, or down here, the birds are facing left. And the only reason I do that is because it's such a pain to write things right to left in any word processing program where you're also trying to use English. I prefer right to left, honestly, because that's what you're going to see in every single hieratic text. That's how they're written. But it's just a pain, whether in Word or Keynote or Pages or whatever. Messes everything up. All right, I hope that helped a little bit. So,
Thank you.
And thanks for asking the questions. That's good.
Oh, two more questions. The two symbols, I didn't know what they were. Yes, you said the one above, the last one above the three strokes was, what was it?
It's some kind of bread loaf. Bread loaf, or cake loaf, some kind of baked goods.
And what was the one before?
This here is like a piece of meat. We didn't cover those before, so.
Aurelio,
Yes, sir.
can I speak for a minute? In the dictionary, that representing for meat, the left one.
I'm sorry, the line was bad, or maybe it's on my end.
Yeah, I was saying, that that particular sign is already referred as representing meat in the dictionary.
It is.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, you're correct. You're absolutely correct.
Meat.
It's generally for things like meat, or for example, also for flesh. They don't distinguish those two words like we do in English. So when you talk, for example, about the limbs of somebody, it also uses that determinative. So I'm actually glad you guys are calling it out. I should have pointed that out. So this determinative here is clear. It's basically a jar. Henket doesn't have one. They just put plural strokes to indicate it's like essentially like some quantity of beer. This one here is essentially for meat, flesh, members, bodily, how would I say that? Pieces of the body, so to say, whether of humans or of animals. And this one here is always referring to some kind of baked goods. It's essentially a highly abstract shape of a loaf.
Aurelia, do you want to show people the overall Gardiner sign list so people can look up signs they don't know what they are?
I think that would be a good idea. Thanks, Ralph. Let me do that. Gardiner sign code. There you go. So different places where to find it, but Gardiner sign list online is certainly helpful in Wikipedia. Is that the one you would use, Ralph, or do you have another one?
And I use the one in Alan's textbook, but
true,
this is
that
a
works
good
too.
index.
Same.
I mean, I have an electronic version of that one, so why not?
Alan's is nice because it has also, you can look it up by shape. If you don't know what something is, it has like long symbols, tall symbols, little tiny symbols.
True. Let's take a look at that. Languages, Afroasiatic. Okay. All the way to the end, right?
Yeah.
Where are his sign lists? Okay. So this is one way how to approach this. if you see the sign list here, they're basically grouped by overall groups, like human beings male, human beings female, then come gods, then come animals, birds, or rather mammals, birds, reptiles, things like earth, stars, sky, etc. So natural objects, quote unquote. And basically it goes down the list. You have tools and you have boats and you have all sorts of things. It makes sense to get such a list, whether it's the online version of Alan, whether it's the one that's on Wikipedia. I'm sure there are more of these out there, and just peruse it to get familiar with what kind of shapes you have.
Go to like page 508, 509. That was what I was talking about with the little how to look things up by the shape and size.
Sounds good. 509. Here we go. Oops.
It's at the end of the sign list, so after Zen.
Yeah. Technical struggles here. Sorry. Oh, by the way, here's the loaf of bread roll. Okay. There's lots of different breads. This one, right? Ah, beautiful. I've never used this one. 508. Here we go. So you can just look them up by shape, like you said, like the vertical tall signs and the horizontal flat signs and the smaller ones, if you don't know which category something falls in. Because, for example, especially when you come new to this and you see something like U33 and you go like, what is this? Is that a ladle? Is that a piece of meat? Is that, I mean, yeah, like, good luck identifying where it belongs. It's U33. I honestly don't actually know what the standard interpretation is of this. Just know how to read it.
To do with a donkey's tail or something. Did you mention it last week?
That one looks slightly different, but this one does look a little bit like a pestle. So yeah, good luck. That one, yeah.
Oh.
I know which one you're thinking about. The one that looks like a flying squirrel. Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
And what did that mean, the flying squirrel one?
That was the general animal determinative. That was like generally for animals. If you don't have a specific like cow or horse or elephant, if they don't really draw what the animal is, you just want to like indicate animal in general, you get this on.
It's fascinating that that we now have a return to emoticons, in our age.
There is a human need there in my mind to show more than the sound, because what most people get wrong, who haven't studied Egyptian, about Egyptian writing, is it's not picture writing, right? It's highly phonetic. You're writing the majority of the sounds of the language, but you have a meaning component as well, just like you do in Chinese. Chinese characters are essentially 50% phonetic, 50% semantic, the majority of them. Yeah, I sort of feel like in alphabetic writing, that whole semantic component is missing. Here's your flying squirrel again. Doesn't look so flying squirrelish here, but there's a ton of activity in the chat. Did I say we should look at Alan? I don't think I said it, but I mean, the writing system doesn't really change all that much between Middle Egyptian and Late Egyptian. So if you either have a paper copy of Alan, I'm a big fan of paper copies, or a PDF copy, it's certainly a useful thing to have. Just don't expect the grammar to be exactly the same. But for the writing system, it's certainly very helpful. All right. I hope that helped a bit in clearing a few things up. Then let's translate this one real quick. I know you didn't have the chance to look them all up. Arab or Arab we had before. That was wine.
Is it wine or beer? I'm getting really confused.
The next one is beer. Henket is beer.
Oh.
So this person wants his pleasure bowl to be filled with wine, beer. Yuf is meat. I mean, not vegetarian here. And then these are some kind of cakes. Wanted to be precise, maybe I've seen them transcribed as like shy cakes, but I'll just leave it at cakes. There are a lot of words like shao, sha, etc., which all refer to some kind of bread. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Cool. Thanks,
Can
Mark.
I try the next one?
Sure,
Can
go
I
for it.
try?
Yeah.
Yeah. If did naf, then tasm and pai. The meaning is he replied saying it is a hound or a dog.
That's correct. Yes.
The extreme left is IWF, that is if. Then the snake and the hand below is DD, double D.
Jed. Right. Jed.
Then that wave and that worm below is NF, that is nef. Then there is the sign for dog, tism,
Is that?
and pai.
That is
So he
correct.
said to him, this is dog or this is hound. He replied saying it is a hound.
Correct. And one thing that, so 100% correct. And he said to him, it's a dog or a hound. Some people say that Chesham specifically means greyhound. I honestly don't know if there's a specific species or type of dog indicated here, because they had different types. So, like I said, I've seen indication that that's supposed to be a greyhound. You had it absolutely right. You've Jet Nef, Chesham Pai. Maybe one other thing to point out, why does it matter? In the story, the Doom Prince is visited. I mean, when he's just born, the Hathors come by to announce his fate. And the fate is going to be, according to them, that he will die either of the crocodile, the snake, or the hound. And of course, he's growing up in seclusion, so that nothing can happen to him. And as a young man, basically, this exchange happens when he sees a dog walking down the street. So yeah, that's the story here. And we haven't covered any of these verb forms yet, but we're going to get to it very soon.
Can you just explain about the dog again? Which signs show the dog?
So yeah,
All that.
I'll put some spaces in between just to make it easier to read. Although they never put spaces, but it's easier for us. So Chesem, ignore the W. That basically is the word for dog or hound. And then this whole part here is phonetic, and this part is just the determinative at the end, which is that generic animal determinative.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
How to determine that if one word is ending, where the one where a particular word ends?
Great question.
That is a slight confusing thing.
It in the beginning it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just look at the where the determinative is. Determinatives are always in the end of the word, mostly.
Thank you.
Exactly. Exactly. So what Mustafa says is exactly what I was thinking too. So Irpa, Ajit's now. So as for those two youngsters, you can see the word youngster has like a little child sitting at the end. That's the determinative here. The next word, to complete. Now this one's spelled in a little bit of a funky way because they actually use the spelling for the word black, which sounds the same way, or to make black. But basically you have a determinative here for hair at the end. Here for the word lifetime, you do have a little son because it's related to words for time. Here for the tribunal or court, you have a little man and plural strokes at the end. And it goes on like this. So every sentence, to arrive or to reach, little legs at the end. For the letter, we have talked about that before. That was the string that was being used on documents at the end. So just like Mustafa said, especially the nouns and the verbs, they normally have a determinative at the end, so you know it ends there. The words that don't have determinatives are articles, common grammatical particles, like all those prepositions. So all those little words like the, a, and, with, to, after, because they typically don't have determinatives on them. But the good thing is after a little while, you know them. And so that will structure the whole sentence for you very nicely. So epa ajat, I know that This is like a whole unit consisting of a little grammatical particle, an article, and then the noun itself, which ends here. So after a while, you really get into that rhythm to know that it always ends when there's like a determinative at the end of it. I hope that makes a bit of sense.
Plural strokes definitely help.
Plural strokes help enormously. You're right. Right. And in late Egyptian, the articles help enormously. Because you always know after an article, like ta, for example, or pa here, a noun comes after. So you already sort of know grammatically what that is. Can only be a subject or an object. So it actually makes it quite easy to parse. Great questions.
Aurelio, I have a rabbit hole question. Chesem seems like it's, so dog seems like it's different in late Egyptian than it is in Coptic. Am I misremembering that?
You're right. No, that's not, it's not the word in Coptic. You're right.
Okay.
Some words just drop out, and we don't have them in Coptic, unfortunately. But it would be nice because then we would have the vowels, but this one we don't. It has no descendants, unfortunately.
Okay.
So what is it in Coptic?
I was afraid somebody was.
I don't remember.
Ah.
I was
Tine.
afraid you were going to ask.
I
Somebody
think
was
it's
gonna
maybe whore or something like that, but I could be wrong.
Something like uhet or ute. Okay, I'll
Yeah,
find it. Yeah. It's the word that appears in Demotic and then goes to Coptic.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, interesting. Does it come from something, or does it appear kind of out of nowhere in Demotic?
Oh, yeah, I think the latter case. I don't recall the etymology. I can look it up while we're here. Yep.
That's
Okay,
good.
so it's uhor. Okay.
Uhor is the one that I was thinking of. Yeah, Uhor.
Okay. Yeah.
And there's a
All right.
female version as well, Uhore.
Okay.
And while Nikita's looking for the etymology, let me move over to the next page. Unless there are any more questions on this one.
I have a technical question about that.
Go ahead.
Just the use of pai as a demonstrative. Would it be more appropriate to say that dog as opposed to like that is a dog instead of it's a dog?
Great question. I would say the way this works is we haven't covered nominal sentences much, but it's really like a pi in the sense of like in Middle Egyptian you would have I think damn, I'm not doing this well. Let me do it I'll stay in one language. So if this were Middle Egyptian, you would have chis and pu, right? You would essentially put pu there for it is. And in late Egyptian, you just put pi. So this is really the it is part. It's not like in Middle Egyptian, you put the demonstrative after, right? Like this dog would be chis and pen. You don't do this in late Egyptian. If you wanted to say this dog in late Egyptian, it would be pai chism. So it actually goes before the noun. Sorry, that was a long-winded explanation. So basically what I'm trying to say is if you want to say this dog, it would be really pai chism. Chism pai is dog, it is. It doesn't have an article. And that's different from English, because in English we have to say it is a dog. You have to put an indefinite article. So you don't do that in Egyptian. You just use the absolute noun. They don't say wa chism pai or something like it is a dog. That's over-specifying it. Good question, though, because this is radically different from what you see in Middle Egyptian, where most demonstratives follow after the noun. And here we put them before.
Excuse me, I found a little note about the dog word, uhor. So it says, so my note says that this word is relatively late and might have been borrowed from another language. It is attested in personal names and is sometimes written in Demotic with the new orthography, so which is usually a case with the borrowed words.
That makes
New orthography of syllabic writing has many names.
very
Okay,
cool.
interesting.
for
Thank
that.
you.
Fascinating. Thank you.
Nice. All right, let's get to the next two. I forgot what that was. I think there was some kind of quarrel between gods or something. They are so noisy we cannot get any sleep. And then who has got this one? And in terms of glossed
Nobody
words,
wants, I can
Yeah, I'll go.
go for it.
go ahead.
Let me shrink the window here. All right. So we're at Mheru,
Mhm.
HW, yes. And then Mgere, lowercase m, GR, capital H. Oh, on H dot, we're using.
Yeah, I was going to try to stay with a
Okay.
Egyptological full version. Yeah, sounds good.
And then the rest of those are just determinatives at the, oh, is that a T? No, Gere.
Go again. I'm sorry.
No, I saw the determinatives there at the end
This one here.
of the word Gere.
This one.
Yeah. I was just, it was some stuff in the way. I had to move it out of the way. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm gonna translate it now.
Yes, please.
I guess in the day.
Mhm.
For Mheru. And then for Mgere, in the night.
That's right. Or maybe by day, by night would be
Yes.
more so by day and night.
Context.
Yeah,
Mhm.
perfect. Sounds good. In terms of how it's spelled, so M, the preposition is just spelled phonetically, HRW spelled phonetically, and then you have a little sun for time words. Why they put the plural here, I'm not sure. Maybe the idea is by day, by night. I mean, I could technically put a little PL here.
I know in Middle Egyptian, sometimes we put those strokes there to denote abstraction sometimes too.
Right. And just for some reason he doesn't do it for, I'm assuming it's a he, could be a she. The author doesn't do it for the gerech. Something interesting, there's a T in there, which normally isn't in that word. Gerech doesn't have a T in Middle Egyptian. I don't think it has a final A in Coptic either. So often they put one when there's like a final E vowel. So I'm not sure if in that expression it sounds like karche or something. I'm not sure, but it's notable. It normally doesn't have a female ending. And then this little puppy here is for the night sky. As you know, so double determinative here, night sky, and then also time expression. So this is the phonetic part, and this is the determinative. All right, great. Any questions by anybody about this one? If not, then let's do the next one. The next one looks, thanks so much. The next one looks complicated. It really isn't all that complicated. It's from the first documented strike action papyrus. I try to remember which Ramses this was, but basically a time of economic trouble, and the workers are not getting their wages for a long time, and so go on strike in Deir el-Medina.
Ramses III.
Ramses III. Thank you, Mustafa. Awesome. Yeah, this one is in Turin, the Turin strike papyrus. So yeah, who wants to take it?
I can give this one a try if nobody else wants to do it.
Go for it. It's yours.
Okay, that's I'm not sure how you would transcribe that in late Egyptian, but I know it's the Coptic men. Like there is not. Oh, there it is. Min. So min hebsu.
Right.
And then min saknen.
Okay, I guess this is what you mean, right?
Yep. Min rame, however you would pronounce it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, normally, what's fish in Middle Egyptian?
Rem.
Yes, I would just keep it at Rim. Although they clearly, I mean, there's like a little Y here in the middle, right? And it would make sense since it's Rame in Coptic, it would make sense for it to be pronounced Rime in Late Egyptian. So maybe that's what they're trying to indicate here by the dual stroke. But honestly, I just keep it in the dictionary form, which is Rim.
Then min, simu,
That's
one of
right.
those.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well done. This one here normally in the dictionary is, I think I pointed that out, that this one is an odd spelling for Sabin. So in the dictionary, you'd find it under G, something that you just need to know in this case. All right. Sounds like you also know what it means.
I think so. I think it would mean there is no clothing.
That's right.
There is no clothing. There is no, I did not look this one up, but I'm just guessing it means like ointment.
Right. Or oil or something. Yeah.
There are no fish.
Right.
There are no vegetables, herbs, something like that.
Yeah, pretty much that. Yeah, exactly. So that's what they're complaining about. There's no clothing, no oil, no fish, and no veggies. Yeah, that's it. Well done. So spelling is a bit adventurous. This here is like spelled really. So what happens is we will cover that in a future session, but there are two ways how to spell words in Late Egyptian. One is the traditional way, essentially a slight modification from Middle Egyptian, and then there's one where you're trying to, especially foreign words, loan words, are spelled out in something called syllabic writing, and this looks a lot to me like that. So basically, that's the way how to render the sound min in this case. And then you have just the determinative, the hands with like outstretched hands, like I have no idea, normally stand for no, for negation. And then we have the bad bird again. So this is how you spell the word there is not. Like you said, clothing, chebes, or maybe chebesu, or chebos in Coptic. There's a sign at the end that you normally find with articles of, what is it? Yeah, like cloth, right? That's the determinative that normally goes there. For the oil, it's a jar. It looks slightly different from the beer jar. For the fish, of course, it's fish. And for semu, it's it's basically stylized plants. So that's all I was going to say about it. Any questions about it?
I think you said in the homework that you're going to cover the spelling of the simu one with that little diagonal thing with the intersecting like the four little ticks on it.
Did I say we're going to cover it, or did I say don't worry about it?
I feel like the homework said, I don't remember though.
Okay, honestly, I'd have to look this one up myself, unless somebody knows how this works. I just said it's a really weird spelling. Because honestly, if you just want to spell Sam, you could just do this, right? Oops. Or even just, I mean, that would be enough. What is this thing in the middle? It is the standard spelling, but does anybody know? Nikita, do you know what that is?
Which one? Oh, this one is sometimes used for. I've seen it used for the back yacht, I think, and I've seen it being used for what's that? For like grass, for these things.
Right. I just don't. I mean, let's do this real quick. This is easier to do with the Middle Egyptian dictionary. So bear with me, guys, for the.
But I've never seen it in hieroglyphs. I've seen it in hieratic mainly.
Right. Well, there's another form that looks more like what you're used to for the backbone. Hang on, let me look it up.
I think the one for the backbone is kind of bigger and it's more prominent, you know.
Exactly, that's the one I'm thinking of. How do we best do this? Maybe via herbs? Nope, that doesn't do it.
It's either iat or at.
Right.
I think
The
it's
backbone, right?
yeah.
Yeah, here we go. And this is the one I think that we're both thinking about. This puppy, right?
Yeah, probably it's just an abbreviated
Right.
variation of this hieroglyph.
Right. So in classical spelling, SMU for plants, herbage, pasture, vegetables, like the way you would expect it. SMW, and then just a bundle of plants and plural strokes, because it's sort of like a, well, it actually has a W at the end. So it is a collective and it sounds like a plural. So it makes sense to put plural strokes. But then you have this alternative spelling, which has this thingy in the middle, which is just an abbreviation of this. And why it's there, I am not sure. It's also in other
Yeah.
words, it's not the same.
When you look up the signs, it essentially, it is, ideogram for back, but sometimes also used with like M21 reeds and root, determinative and sham, plants, grass, and help.
Yeah, thank you.
No.
I
Can
think
we refer
it's,
this dictionary as well?
go again.
Can we refer to this dictionary?
This one here, yeah, I sent it out in the original, the very first email. Look for Faulkner Yegorovich, and you'll find it on archive.com. And that's the only place where you'll find it, because this was never printed. This is somebody Yegorovich put that, Boris Yegorovich put that together from the goodness of his heart, because the original by Faulkner is handwritten, which that one you can buy, but yeah, this one is searchable and typeset. So that's definitely a very useful tool, even though it's for classical, for Middle Egyptian. I mean, for lookup like this, it's just so much easier. Some words can change meaning, though, between Middle and Late Egyptian. So just a fair word of caution. Like, for example, secher is plan, and in Late Egyptian, it's more like habit or state. So that one changes meaning radically. Or sheri, small versus son. I mean, some things you have to be careful that the meaning can change. But in general, it's still a super useful tool to have the Faulkner dictionary. Like I said, look for this one here, Faulkner Yegorovich. I can send the link again in the chat if somebody doesn't have it yet. All right, guys. This took a bit longer than I thought, as usual. But great questions. So I would say, if it's okay with everybody, let me jump a little bit into the next topic. And what you can see is, I mean, getting used to hieroglyphic spellings, well, yeah, take some time getting used to it. Not everything is always 100% immediately logically clear why it's spelled the way it is. The same is true for English. If you dig into the history of the orthography of any English word, you'll normally find a good explanation for why we spell it this way, because it was taken from French via Latin, from Greek via Latin, via Norman French into Middle English, or whatever the reason may be. Of course, when starting out, you don't have that information for Egyptian, so some of the things you'll just have to chalk up under we don't quite know why at this point. I would say that's more like a reflection of the complexity of the writing system. And if there's something that you find confusing, that's just, yeah, it's to be expected. After a while, it just makes a lot of sense. That's all I can say. With that, I wanted to switch over to the article, at least get started on it today. Last time we had the demonstratives, pai, tai, nai. So pai remich, this man, pai itai setchimet, or setchemet, this woman. And that's the strong form, basically saying this. There is a weaker form, which is basically the article in Late Egyptian. So the equivalent of our the. Late Egyptian has the, Late Egyptian has the indefinite article a or some. We'll cover that in the future. And they're being used mostly like in English. I say mostly like in English because of two reasons. One, Egyptian has gender, and so you still need to distinguish between male and female in the singular. And the plural, na, is just common gender, so it doesn't make a difference what the gender is in the singular. Also said almost like in English, because there's some cases where Egyptian does use the article where we don't use it, and vice versa. Some cases where we would use it where Egyptian doesn't use it. That's always the case when languages have articles, that there are slight variations in usage when you put it. Like in English, you would say, I eat bread. And I think in French, it would be of the bread. So there are just small variations in idiomatic usage. So yeah, let's take a look at that. So if you have remech or Rome in Coptic, man, human being, if you want to make it into the man, it becomes paremech. So Rome in Coptic, the man, paremech. The M is not written, so you just have R and ch. That's another one of these words that is missing a consonant in the spelling. Now, if you want to make it the men or the people, it becomes na remech. So you just put the plural article in front. The spelling changes a little bit, especially since if I mean the word people, you have like a little man, a little woman, and plural strokes afterwards. So paremech, plural, na remech. That would be for masculine word. Feminine word, I picked setchimet or setchemet as woman. It's actually, this word has two components. Set already means woman in Middle Egyptian. Chemet means wife. In Late Egyptian, if you glue the two together, it's the singular version to say woman, singular word. In Coptic, that becomes eschime, all the final T's fall away. So eschime is woman, or setchemet is woman. Now, if you want to make that into the woman, you put the ta in front. So taschemet is the woman. In Coptic, teschime. Word sounds almost the same. In the plural, you drop the set. Sorry, complicated. So it becomes not naset chemet, but it becomes nachemet, or more specifically in Coptic, nechiome. So there's also something going on with the vowels. In the plural, the noun may or may not change. So this is a good example. Like eschime becomes hiome, or set chemet becomes chemet. Often the spelling hides things like vowel changes. That makes it a little bit complicated. But honestly, to understand the language, you don't have to worry too much about it. If you see the singular article, you know it's singular. If you see the plural article, you know it's plural. And that's one of the things that's super helpful in Late Egyptian, that you normally have either the definite article or the indefinite article telling you what it is. Questions about this one?
Sorry to be stupid, but let's say take the woman one. Do you mind just breaking down for me the actual symbols here? So the top one is a s, then that's, isn't that above that? Sorry. Oh yeah. Okay. The woman. Yeah. That one, and then I was actually looking at the example above, sehime. So s. I thought that was a t, the one underneath.
You're absolutely correct. And I'm sorry, I glossed over that way too quickly. So let me do that real quick. So this is a s and this is a t. So that's set. And then this one here is chem and t. So chemet. So set, chemet, and then the determinative for woman. And I should have absolutely called that out. So thanks for hitting the pause button there, Rebecca. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we can still hear you.
Yeah.
We just lost Rebecca's video feed. While we're waiting for Rebecca to come back on, yeah, I have a bad habit of like pronouncing these things in semi-Coptic, so I should really call it Setchemet and not Eschime, because that's what's written there. Although I'm pretty sure the way they pronounced it would have been already Setchime, because those T's, half the time they don't show up, which I think is a good indication that they weren't pronounced anymore. They were just writing it because that's what they were used to from classical Egyptian, that every scribe would have had learned, basically.
So the him is one of those biliteral signs. It stands for two consonants. Is that right?
Yes. Right.
Okay. So that's a new one. Like we have the S and the T from the uniliteral list, but we haven't really looked at the him before.
No, we haven't. And so that, yeah, I'm not sure how we best want to do this. What I didn't want to do is like do a whole like 4 weeks, go through all the multiliterals. So my idea would be maybe if you're new to those, take a good look at the multiliteral list in Allen, the biliteral list in Allen. And
You also sent the list out the last week.
say again?
You sent the list of biliterals out, like the table
Right.
from Alan, I think, last week.
Right. So I would really familiarize myself with that list. It's not necessary to learn every single sign, at least in my experience, it makes more sense to learn them in words. But if you've seen them, if you know, for example, oh, I've seen that somewhere on the biliteral list, what was it again? You can look it up and you'll find right away, oh yeah, that's HM, Cheme. I mean, Chem. And then this makes way more sense than otherwise. Thanks, Ralph. Great point. This is tricky. Okay, let's do an example for the last 5 minutes. And I'm introducing a new sign, apologies. The one on the left, if you're new to it, that's ta, that's T aleph, and it's the word for land or earth. In the plural, that one becomes tau. You can actually find that spelling with the Quailchic and the plural strokes. In Middle Egyptian, that would be all you need to indicate the lands. So some lands, the lands would be all the same. In Middle Egyptian, however, sorry, in Late Egyptian, you can put the article. So the question is which article? So if I wanted to say the land and the lands, what would it be? And Ralph, you're still on camera, so somehow it's yours.
I'm trying to remember. I think land is feminine, so it would be ta-ta.
Let's look it up.
And nata for the plural.
The nata is definitely correct. Let's look it up. I would claim it's masculine. But if you don't know, the easiest way to figure that out is, can I use it in a sentence, basically, like in the spelling bee? So, ta, land.
Pata, there you go.
It's pata, so it's masculine. Okay. So the way you do that then is Egyptian, pa, ta, and it looks super unfamiliar if you're more familiar with the Middle Egyptian spelling, but yeah, this would really be pata, the land. Plural then, like you said, na.
Natau.
Right. Natau, yeah. Now you can argue, should we transcribe that with a W or not? In this case, I would, because the W is written. So I think it's only fair to actually make that Natau and make this one here Pata. How about if it wasn't written, if it was just like written like this, I'd be very tempted to just write plural, because we really don't know like how it was pronounced. All right, thanks a lot. And you can see it in Coptic, so that would be in Coptic it would be apto, and plural would be ento. Normally you don't put a hyphen, but just for clarity. Cool. Let's do the next one. Who wants to take it?
Yeah, I can.
All right, Mustafa.
Yeah. Then pet. Top pet or yeah.
Which one is it? Sorry, go masculine or
Top
feminine?
pet. Ta.
You said ta.
Yes, you are correct. So something like this. Hey.
Is there are there any evidence pet word is feminine in Middle Egyptian or Late Egyptian?
Well, let's look it up. The answer is yes, but let's try it out. So
As I know, there is no in Middle Egyptian, but yeah.
I mean, Middle Egyptian, you could look at what comes with it, like in terms of adjectives, or if it's being referred to by a suffix pronoun, that would tell you what it is.
Okay. I know it is in, yeah.
It ends in T, so you're pretty safe guessing that it's feminine. Except
Actually,
like the 5 or 10 exceptions of words ending in T where the T is part of the stem
yeah,
is
can we
something that in
say,
Middle Egyptian at least you can learn by heart.
can we say also Nesut is feminine?
No, that's why I said the 10 exceptions that you can and have to learn by heart, but pet isn't one of them. It's
Actually,
chet, 2 chets, 1 chet,
there is no,
nesut.
actually in Middle Egyptian there is no distinction if it is feminine or masculine or something like.
No, because you can still have adjectives that
Right.
then need to match in feminine and masculine, or it can be referred to by a pronoun, which are feminine or masculine.
Right, that's true. So you would be able to tell from any pronoun that refers to it. You'd be able to tell from any adjective that comes after it, like you said. But this one here we're on safe grounds because in late Egyptian you can clearly also see it from the article. It's tape.
Yeah.
How do you make it plural?
Then let's say na, also na, put, pet, na pet.
Right. And honestly, that's the way it's spelled. I don't think it usually would have a W in there. We know in Coptic it's in Pewe. So
Yeah, that's logical on the other end.
go again.
I mean, it is also logical in the middle of the word.
Yes.
Ooh.
It would be logical, although next week we'll see some examples where it comes out very differently. So this one, I don't know. If you want to transcribe it pet with just plural afterwards, that's something that Rasmus proposed in the chat, and I like that a lot. Pet plural, that would be fair. I forgot the na. Hang on. Transliteration. Here we go. Na pet, or if you want to put the little W in there, because you sort of say, hey, I know it's there from Coptic, would also be legit. I mean, whatever makes you feel more comfortable. But yeah, that's how you use the definite articles. You just glue them in front. In the 19th dynasty, you can have like a little N in between. So it can be na and ta. It could be na and pet as well. After the 19th dynasty, that goes away. It's just pa, ta, na without anything added to it. And that's how it also survives in Sahidic Coptic. I think I'm going to stop here because we're already a few minutes over time. Thanks so much, as usual, for joining. And I would say let's continue next week. I'll probably send an exercise on this out a little bit later today, if that's good for everybody.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Guys, have a good one.